Welcome, DeFi Degens. This is DeFi Crypto and Airdrops. I am Mike, aka Veteran Crypto, and wanted to go live. Wanted to talk about a topic that I think goes overlooked quite a bit, and it is a topic that I think is key to anyone's success when it comes to investing in life in general, and that's having focus and discipline. Um, those that lack it usually fail in life in general, and especially in investing, because there is plenty of people out there that are very good at using emotion to manipulate the masses. And when it comes to investing, there's nothing more evident that it is being used as a tool to take your money. I mean, it's used in politics to divide, to get, different groups arguing with each other. It's used in the military, obviously, to galvanize, groups of people and units. But let's go ahead and dive into it. So I want to focus specifically on how you can use focus and discipline to be successful in investing. But first off, I want to do a quick shout out to everybody in the chat. We got my usual crew. Love you guys and girls. Wispy, Jay, got Ellie, Food is Life, and Fibonaccios that have showed up so far. And we got about 100 people looking across all the different platforms. Appreciate y'all. By all means, please come on over to, let me share my screen real quick. Come on over to DeFi Crypto and Airdrops on YouTube. Join the conversation. Jump in the chat, ask questions, talk amongst yourselves, whatever. It really helps me to engage with you all and get an idea of if what I'm saying is coming across, or if something I say doesn't make sense. Please, ask me a question. If something I say is wrong, if you feel it's wrong, jump in the chat. Tell me I'm fucking, all fucked up. Whatever. I enjoy a healthy, back and forth, a healthy debate. So I'm not always right. I'll admit it, but on a lot of stuff I am. I'm an old bastard. So, I have a lot of years where I've learned. So you can follow me on X, Veteran, the number 4 crypto. And if you would like, you can join our Discord. So there's the DIG Discord, which is for the Discover Investment Group. As you can see over here on our YouTube, we have our brother channels. So you got DZ, TJ, and Josh over on Discover Crypto. You got my co-host Jeff over at the Blockchain Report. Drew, love you, brother. It's over at the Blockchain Basement, and Kelly over at BitLab Academy. But we are all in this DIG, this Discover Investments group. You can learn about trading. You can watch Drew, Josh, and Kelly enter and exit. They'll tell you exactly when they're entering, exactly when they're exiting, what their stop losses are, all of that. I'm in there answering DeFi questions. TJ is in there doing portfolio reviews. So one-on-one, he'll do a call with you, go through your portfolio, and give you input. He's not going to tell you what to do, but he's going to give you input. Let you know what, you might be a little too heavily invested in this one. You might want to look at this project, whatever he does. So something to look at. And then, of course, we have our DeFi Crypto and Airdrops, our own Discord channel where we're a little more loose and in our sharing of life in general, personal picks, what we're up to, things like that. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into DeFi Llama real quick. As you can see, we have total value locked has been going up in DeFi. And of course, if we click on DEX volume, same thing. You're going to see, DEX volumes are starting to tick up. So, with that, whenever you see volumes going up, that means that our yield is going up. The fees that we're earning are going up. Granny's Garden, good to see you. And Cloud99, pre-rich, appreciate you joining. All right. So anything that you need to know about DeFi, you're going to find it here. I mean, this is your hub of data and analytics, which ties into today's topic. Me personally, I invest, and I'm not the perfect investor. I'm not going to claim to be. However, I do not invest off emotion. Anybody that's listened to me or watched me, you know that I do not get caught up when things are pumping. I don't get overexcited. I just keep to my plan. When things are dumping, I don't panic. I don't sell. I stick to my plan. And part of that is because I've done my research. I think logically. I use facts, logic, and data when I invest so that when things start getting crazy and chaotic, I have focus. It's the same thing in the military. When you're in chaotic situations, if you trained how you fought, you focus on your training and you focus on the mission, and those around you all understand the same thing, and you're working as a team. That's why it's important to have a community to keep you grounded, and you're all focused on the same task. It makes it a lot easier to accomplish that task. So, data, logic, research, and a good community of people that aren't always going to tell you what you want to hear. You do not want to be a part of a cult. You don't want to be a part of one of these crypto projects that are just constantly hyping the shit out of it, trying to get people to buy it to pump their own bags. You want to find people that are going to say, that might be a good investment, but have you looked at this, 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 and this? You always need to be most critical of the things that you're most bullish on. You always need to be looking for flaws. You always need to be looking for how the fundamentals have changed. And I'll get into that here in a minute. RWA.xyz, same thing. More. It's everything's being tokenized. No need to get too deep into that. Those of you that are into Plume, there's a new level up. If you want to go in there, there's a platform. If you're not familiar, I've traveled over to Thailand and places. There's these little taxis called tuk-tuks, and they're those little ones, like two-seater in the back, and then the guy driving or girl driving. But actually, we'll just go to it. I've already completed it, but I'll show you. So these little things, they're called tuk-tuks. But it's basically where you can, lend money to where, people can buy these little tuk-tuks and, make money. So it's like a crowdsourcing or, micro investing or something like that. But you can invest as little as $15 and accomplish the latest task on Plume. This little one here, and you get 50 points. So just wanted to make sure that you're all aware of that. Let's close that out. Let's see. So let's start diving into this. Let me check the comments real quick. Give Bet some love and hit the like button. Appreciate you, Pre-Rich. Yeah, no, please help support the channel. I don't ever ask for money. We don't monetize anything. All I ask is that you like and share the stream. We're just trying to get the good word out. We don't do super chats. We don't do memberships. We don't charge for anything. We don't have sponsorships. We don't have, we're not paid to do this in any way whatsoever. And because of that, what we're saying is how we genuinely feel and how we based off of data, analytics, research, fundamentals. We're going to say if there's things we don't like about a project because we're not incentivized to say otherwise. We want to be a reliable source of information for you all. So please like and share. Binge watching The Academy on episode 6. Awesome, Cloud99. I know. I know there's 11 of them so far. This might be number 12. I don't know. But I know there's a lot of information, but stay focused and it will answer 99% of your questions. Hi, Granny. Appreciate you. I know it's late where you're at. I definitely. Oh, pecs on point. Yeah, I need to work out after this, Ellie. Let's see. Yeah, as I get older, I got to work out harder to try to stay in shape. Yes, yes. Echo chambers are the worst. They are your worst enemy. Do not surround yourself with everybody that says the same thing. It will destroy you in life, in crypto, in anything. Your best friend should be the person that's the first one to step up and tell you you're fucking up. That girl or that guy that you're about to start dating is not good for you. That car that you're about to buy, or that investment you're about to make, that is not a good investment. They should be the one that is looking out for you and telling you sometimes what you don't want to hear. Um, I'm not in the Zora USDC pool, Victor, but we can check it out. Yeah, and pre-rich, you're probably doing well. If you respect those people the most, people that are going to be brutally honest with you, those are the friends to keep around. All right, so let's dive into this. So we're going to be talking about the myth of getting rich quick in crypto. So the first thing that many of us, myself included, that we ran into when we first got into crypto was probably a meme coin. For me, it was Sheeb, the end of last cycle. I got into Sheeb because I saw it on a social media post, and it just reminded me. It was like, yeah, I remember when my buddy told me about Bitcoin in like 2011, 2012, and was trying to get me to put $100 in it, and I laughed at him. And so I saw this post, got into crypto. It's how a lot of us got into crypto, is a social media post. However, most meme coins use emotion. They use the hope of getting rich quick, of easy money. And you see, constant posts. XRP is one of the most notorious. And I'll show you. I got social media pulled up, and where I didn't look up XRP. I just put in crypto, and it's sometimes not even that. And it's just an endless stream of AI and things saying that that these projects are going, XRP is going to $10,000. This is the next meme coin that's going to 1,000x, just all that stuff. And that is how they pump those coins. They use emotion. And you have to realize, if you think logically, there's only so much liquidity. How many people lost everything? Sorry about that. Lost you for a second. How many people, if there's $10 million, if there's $10 million in a meme coin, and 10 people each make $1 million, how many people lost everything so that those 10 people could make $1 million? That's logic. Everybody that gets into a meme coin is not going to get rich. It's usually the people that launched it and the people that got in early, their buddies and their friends that got tokens before it launched. Almost everybody after it launches, you're their exit liquidity. And they spend a bunch of money hyping it up on social media, using bots and everything else and AI to get everybody to FOMO in. The more people that they can get to FOMO in, the more money they make. It's emotion. And you need to learn to control your emotions. When the markets are dumping, you need to stay the course. When the markets are pumping, you need to stick to your ladder out plan. These are the things you need to focus on if you're going to be successful this cycle, because it's coming. And I know that you keep hearing that. At some point, your tokens are going to pump. They might only X 4x, they might 100x. You need to have your ladder out strategy. In the Discord, we have free spreadsheets that have the formulas all plugged in. All you have to do is fill in what assets you have and at what percentage. Oh, here, I'll just show you instead of telling you. So here's my ladder out strategy. The blue areas auto populate. All I put in was the percentage that I want to sell and at what price point I want to sell. It automatically tells me how many tokens I need to sell, how much they'll be worth at that point, and I have all my holdings in there. And so if I hit all my take profit points, I'll have 610, yeah, $610,000. I'm probably not going to hit all my ladder out points, but even if I fall short, I only make 400,000 or 500,000. I'm not round tripping my bags. So this is the kind of thing that you need to do to keep yourself emotionally honest. Because when the FOMO kicks in, when everything's pumping and everybody's like, this time is different, we're going into a super cycle, you start hearing all that, you know, all those narratives going on. Could this be different because institutional money? Are we not going to get a bear market this cycle? Crypto's going to keep going up and to the right. All that kind of stuff. You might play into that if you don't have a ladder out strategy. You need to keep yourself grounded. So, why most investors fail? Chasing pumps, buying green candles, hype cycles, just like I was just talking about when everything starts to move, and meme coins, trying to get rich quick. Those are the most common. Alpha, isn't in the next token. It's in behavior, focus, and emotional discipline. If you want to be successful, you have to be willing to do what other people aren't. When they're holding on, trying to get a little bit, more profit before they cash out, you need to be the one that's laddering out, because for every person that is making profit, somebody else is the exit liquidity. You're either the exit liquidity or you're the one profiting. There's no two ways about it. That's just simple math. Like I said before, if there's $10 million in a project and a million people or 10 people cash out before everybody else, potentially they each make $1 million. I know that's not exact, but everybody else goes broke. It's all about getting in before everybody else, having the discipline to do the research to see if a project is worth investing in. And then as the market's pumping and dumping, you're just stacking that unless the fundamentals change. But as long as the fundamentals stay the same, you keep stacking it. And if the fundamentals do change, be willing to, de-risk. Maybe you sell some of that project like I did with Casper. I had about 1 million tokens of Casper. I now have about 550,000. I sold a bunch of it because I keep hearing that, they're building this and they're going to launch that. I'm still bullish on it. It's a great project, great team, but they're not actually launching anything. It's, Wise. They've forever, they've been saying, we're about to launch a DEX, DeFi for Casper. Been hearing it for like a year now. Well, we're almost there. We're almost there. Never happens. They were building out the AI for IBM, for Watson and all that. And half of Casper Labs ended up breaking off, and the old CEO took that contract and started building on HBAR and, and left Casper. And so, they lost that. So there's a lot of things. And I was super bullish on Casper. I was always talking about it, but the fundamentals changed. XRP, I was in the top 3% of holders. I had 40,000 XRP, and the fundamentals changed. It was going to be the cross-border payments. XRP was the only thing on the XRP ledger. It was going to have to move value. So XRP was going to have a high valuation in order to facilitate the movement of that liquidity. However, Ripple talked to banks and institutions. Banks and institutions says, we don't want to use a volatile asset when we're moving, liquidity, because if it moves, even a 0.5%, If we're moving $1 billion, we're losing $5 million. In that fraction of a second or that second or two it takes to make that transaction, we might lose $5 million. So Ripple came out with RLUSD, a stable coin that can be used on the XRP ledger for ODL. A lot of people think that ODL can only use XRP. That is incorrect. Ripple also added USDC. So a ton of, liquidity and backing on USDC. Plus it's US compliant, as far as the new Genius Act that Trump signed into law. So it can be used, for cross-border, remittances. The fundamentals changed. I sold on the first pump. I sold all my XRP. I sold all my ISO tokens, and I got into DeFi because I thought that, banking and cross-border payments was going to be the huge narrative, this cycle. RWAs and tokenizations of real-world assets. I saw a lot more potential there. So I was willing to cut bait. I made some profits. I cut bait and I moved on. Yes, did XRP keep going up? Absolutely. Have I made more money in DeFi and RWAs, however? Absolutely. So this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. So, case studies. What wrecked portfolios during 2022 and in the bear market, and who survived? The people that made money in bull markets are the people that have ladder out strategies. They're the ones that have a plan ahead of the pump on how they are going to lock in their profits. Bottom line, that is who profits. Here, let's see. Yeah, XRP, Fibonacci's. XRP is getting pushed hard on TikTok and all socials. Yeah, it's always the most shilled. And it's sad because a lot of people get sucked into that. Food is life. Yep, 5% will make it. Others will get to see the profits go bye-bye. Absolutely. And you have to decide, are you going to be the exit liquidity, or are you going to be the ones, sipping an umbrella drink on a boat, down in the Caribbean? Maybe Casper for next cycle. It might do something this cycle. Like I said, I'm still holding a nice bag of it, and I'm going to see what it does. Yeah, years of empty promises. It if it wasn't for the partnerships that they have, I would have bailed on Casper. But as you can see, I have 15% of my portfolio is in Casper. Look at this crap. All right, let's see if I can. I don't think I can. Let me see if I can go to it. It says this page doesn't exist. Oh, because I put crap at the end of it. Try that. No. No, never mind. All right. So habits of top crypto and DeFi investors, daily rituals that create clarity, like journaling, portfolio reviews, market screeners. That's why I'm always showing DeFi Llama. I'm showing RWA.xyz. That's why I'm always showing my spreadsheet that I track on. I have a routine. I wake up every morning. I take my, my old man pills, my krill oil, and all my different stuff that helps my body keep functioning. I go and I feed my cat. I make my tea, and I come over and I check the markets. I sit down. I look at my portfolio, my overall portfolio. I look at DeFi Llama. I look at the morning shows, and I start getting informed. What's going on today in the markets? After that, I look at I update my spreadsheet. and I start looking at how I might need to reallocate. Do I need to exit some positions? Um, do I need to rebalance some positions? Am I going to leave, some positions and wait for them to come back into range? All of those sorts of things. You have to have a routine. You have to stay disciplined and focused on that routine and not get distracted. Again, you need to be willing to do what other people aren't. While they're going out partying, while they're going out and they're distracted and they're not watching the markets, and they're not, learning about new projects and staying updated on the projects they're invested in. While they're distracted, you're the one that is moving your money where it's making the most. And while you're doing that, most likely they're losing money. So that is, how you need to have a leg up on your competition out there. Just like institutions, they have armies of people and, AI and freaking, different softwares that maximize, their investing. You have to work 10 times as hard, to get your piece of the pie. All right. Time blocking versus information overload. Control your inputs. Don't just willy-nilly, go online and try to learn about everything. You're gonna learn a little bit about everything. You need to stay focused on, again, this is something I do. I don't try to invest in DeFi on every protocol out there. I try to stay as knowledgeable as I can about the ones that I like to use. As far as DeFi aggregators, Beefy and VFAT are my go-tos. Aerodrome, Uniswap, Morpho, Moonwell, Mamo. There's certain ones that I just try to specialize in. Is there a bunch of other ones? Absolutely. Is there any way humanly possible that I could stay knowledgeable enough on them to talk to you all about them and to use them effectively? Absolutely not. I'm staying focused on the ones that are profitable for me. Am I dipping into new ones like Black Hole? Absolutely. If I see opportunity. Black Hole, Aerodrome, Velodrome, they're all that VE33. They're all very similar models. So if you understand one, the other ones are very, very similar. So, they're easy to understand. So, that's a hack that you can use. If it's using a similar structure, with the voting and locks and the way that the liquidity pools work and the fees that the platform generates getting paid back to the people that lock the to stabilize the platform, things like that. Learning is better than gambling. Allocating time for research, education, and protocol due diligence. Again, learning about the protocols, understanding are you still self-custodying your assets, or are you depositing your assets and opening yourself up to potentially getting rugged like Celsius? Are they whole assets, or are is your assets just locked in an NFT that you are holding? Important to know, because like Mamo, the platform Mamo can go down. I can still go over to Moonwell and see my assets and withdraw them there. Mamo, all it's doing is moving my assets around and maximizing my earning. So understanding how these platforms work is key. The importance of reflection, tracking what worked, what didn't. So again, with my tracker, I look at it and I have all my positions. I have how much I invested. I have what its current value is. I have what I'm currently earning as far as, APR, and I'm tracking, daily, monthly, yearly, what I'm making. And I'm also tracking my overall portfolio. So you can see, I started with 15,000. I'm now up to 41.5. So I am constantly, but again, because of discipline, I started out with 15 grand. Very quickly I doubled my money. But because of the market pullback, it looked like I was losing money. I was stacking more tokens, but dollar value, I was going down. I could have gotten emotional. I could have said, DeFi, I'm losing fucking money in DeFi. I need to sell all this if I was emotional. But I took a breath, I dialed in, and I started really looking at my portfolio. The amount of arrow that in my portfolio was going up because we were at $2.20. We pulled back to like 30 cents at one point with arrow. Those of you that have been with me for a while, instantly you saw me on, in the Discord and on here. I'm not selling anything. I'm going to double down and I'm just going to keep stacking at these discount prices. Now we're back up to about $1. So if you were buying and you were disciplined and you were buying at 30 cents, because fundamentally Aerodrome, the platform, is a solid project. It's over half of the volume on the base network. It's being integrated into the new base app. It's going to be the main platform for DeFi on Coinbase. That was my motivation. That was my focus. So I didn't allow emotion to get me to dump my bags where, people that are emotionally disciplined would have been buying them up at 30 cents. If you were buying at 30 cents, you've tripled your money. If you were stacking at 30 cents, I have almost 20,000 arrow just because I stayed in my pools, my full range pools, and just kept stacking just like a machine, 24/7, 365. And it paid off. Markets haven't gone anywhere close to what they were back in November, December as far as alts. But I now have 41,000 as opposed to 15,000. So once we go back up, I'm probably going to have, somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000 in my DeFi portfolio. Just if we go back to the recent highs, a couple months ago, because of discipline. All right. Managing chaos. How disciplined liquidity providers outperform degens. Consistent yield farming versus yield chasing. I stressed this in episode 8 of the DeFi Academy, building your portfolio. Do not, when you're getting started in DeFi, do not chase. Don't look at high APRs and FOMO into those, trying to get rich quick. If you can get rich quick, you can lose your money quick. Try trading and do 20x leverage and not know what you're doing. You're going to get wrecked. Try jumping into some meme coin. Chances are you're going to get wrecked. In DeFi, you want to start out so that, while you're learning, start out in lending. If you're lending, you might only be earning 5 or 10, between 5 and 10% on your assets, but you're earning 5 or 10% where otherwise you'd be earning nothing. On top of that, you still get full price appreciation. If your bag pumps, your original holdings plus that 5 to 10% that you earn pumps. There's no downside. Now, staking, same thing. As long as you're not locked up for long periods of time, like some staking, you can earn 10, 15, 20% or more just by depositing your assets. Again, you get full price appreciation on the yield that you earn and the deposited assets. Again, not a whole lot of downside. As long as the project doesn't go to zero, there's really no downside to it. And then if you want to dip your toe in, full range liquidity pools. For me, my workhorse has been USDC and Arrow. I put my Arrow in there. It makes a steady 40 to 50% APR. It fluctuates a little bit. Steady 40 to 50% APR. Printing me money. And you get most, a good rule of thumb is about 70% of the price appreciation. But all of the yield that you earned, as long as you don't compound it back in, if you're just using it to build a bag, that gets full price appreciation. That is the holy trinity, the foundation of your DeFi portfolio. That is what you build on. And that's going to keep you disciplined. As long as you stay the majority of your portfolio in that, you're going to steady earn, and you're going to always have dry powder to open up new liquidity pools. And then you can get into ranged liquidity pools and higher risk stuff with other people's money. With people that are chasing APRs, with people that are swapping between assets because they see something's pumping. And so they're trying to get exposure to certain projects. You be the bank, just like the bank, how they take your money and they lend it out to people that want to buy a house and they want to start a business and they want to buy a car, a flashy car that's going to depreciate in value. Be the bank, be the level-headed, even-keeled, I'm here to make money, not get rich quick. You are going to be successful. All right. Smart DeFi behaviors using tools like VFAT. Again, data. You look at VFAT. Where's my VFAT? There it is. So here's my VFAT. You can see I've opened a couple of new pools on Black Hole to test them out. I put $200 in wrapped AVAX USDC. I'm only earning $1.13 a day, but this has been steady earning. So this is a successful test. This staked AVAX with wrapped AVAX, I put $40 in there. I just wanted to see if it was going to keep up, and it didn't, because it was earning a huge APR. I'm wanting to say it was like 80 or 90%, but it went down. So I'm probably going to close that out. That was not a good test. This USDC Black full range position, I'm earning 838% right now. I put in $200 and it was successful. So I migrated it over to VFAT, and I put in another $600. So now I have $800. I'm going to now use this to build my bag of black. Again, discipline. I did some tests. This one failed, so I'm going to get out of it. This one is successful so far, but not earning as much as this. I'll probably leave this because I'm just using this to stack black. This one here, I just did this morning. I just moved it over here this morning, so I cashed it out. But all I'm going to do is I'm just going to harvest this and probably compound it as long as this APR keeps up, because it's a full range pool. I'm probably just going to keep compounding it, and I'm going to see if I can do the same thing. Once you find a winning formula, stick with it. Discipline, focus. Just like I did with Plume, just like I did with KTA. I'm going to use this $800 and I'm going to see if I can make a $5,000 bag of black. Again, discipline, focus. I found what works for me, and I'm going to stick with that formula until something changes. And then I may reassess if I stop earning as good as much on this. I might close it out, put it all in black. Whatever bag I have is whatever bag I have. If the volumes go down on a black hole, and I might move over and start stacking something else. But again, as long as I see the potential in black and the fundamentals look good, I'm going to stick with it. But again, like I said, that's why I've built my Plume bag. I moved on to KTA. I moved on to Mammo, and I'm working on black. What else I got? Because I've done this a couple of times. So I started with Arrow, and I built up a massive bag of Arrow using this logic that I just went over. Casper, same thing. Been building a bag of that for years now with 16% APR, staking Casper. DAG, there's really no DeFi plays. I can't really do anything with that. Ondo, no good ones. Plume, built up over 70,000 of Plume. Black, I'm doing that now. Flare, I was doing that for a while. I sold it off because I just don't see Flare doing any as much as some of these other projects. So I put that liquidity in some other stuff. Moonwell, I see great things. I have some staked over there to see if I can grow it. And then Mamo, I'm earning 20% on that. And I need to add some other stuff. But you can see what I'm talking about. It's just that focus, that discipline to grow those bags. All right. The power of automated strategies. This is a great way to eliminate your own emotions. Staking, if you put your tokens in, and you have them staked, my Mamo, I have them on Mamo to where it's just earning 20%. I don't need to look at it. I don't need to do anything. It just automatically does it. Beefy, same thing. It auto compounds. It everything is automated on it. I don't have to look at it at all. It just does it on its own. It's a great way to remove emotion, because if you're constantly having to go and harvest and you're constantly having to go look at it, then you might see that, oh shit, the price dipped on it, my deposit value went down, and that emotion might start kicking in to where, like, should I exit that position? It went out the bottom of the range. Should I exit that position? Whereas Beefy, it auto rebalances for you. So you're always in range. You're always earning. The value of your deposit might still go down. Like I'll show you mine. Let's see. There we go. So you can see, like, this wrapped AVAX USDC, it's been earning great. I mean, it's been earning like 200 to, sometimes, 1,000% or more. But I only have $895 initially because of my tracker, discipline, focus. You can see my wrapped AVAX USDC pool. I initially put in $1,016. So I'm down on that. But I've been earning, and so I have more tokens. And the price of AVAX is significantly down from when I entered this position. So when it goes back up, I'm going to have way more than $1,000 because I've been stacking. So I'm just holding what I got. I'm not messing with it. All right, let's go through some of these questions because you guys have been really good at putting some stuff in here, and I want to see if there's any good questions. All right, Fibonaccios. I saw this morning Mamo is now integrated into the base app. Think we'll see any price appreciation due to this? Absolutely. It's going to onboard liquidity. As people start using that Coinbase app, as soon as it goes fully live, right now it's beta testing. As soon as it goes fully live, it's going to allow people that don't know about wallets and don't know about, how to send, crypto to their wallet, connect their wallet to Mamo, how to deposit liquidity, all that stuff. It's going to allow them to seamlessly just deposit liquidity very easily on the app. So that is going to ramp up the TVL. With the TVL ramping up, that the overall value of that project goes up. And usually you see price appreciation in the token because of that. Just like you do on on Aerodrome or any other DEX. So absolutely. Good question. Yeah, they were talking about how Mamo can reward you in Bitcoin. I'm loading up on Mamo. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I got a bunch of liquidity on Mamo myself. Mamo is a great project. So I only have like $33 in USDC that I put on here to test it out. I'm earning 9% currently. Bitcoin, nothing crazy, just shy of 1%, but it's 1%. It's a free 1%. And then my Mamo, it's currently making 20%, just over 20%. I've earned 107 free Mamo so far. But if you look at this, you can either choose to send to Bitcoin. So I can send my Coinbase wrap Bitcoin to my Bitcoin account, and then my Mamo and virtual compound into more Mamo. Or, like I have it switched, I earn Mamo, Coinbase wrap Bitcoin, and virtual, and they all auto convert and compound into more Mamo. I want to stack Mamo right now. I see more upside in Mamo. Could I, be emotional and say, hey, Bitcoin, all the focus is on Bitcoin right now. All the institutions are buying. Potentially, there's going to be a supply crunch. Bitcoin could, 5, 6, 7x from here. Absolutely. But Mamo, if I look at the data, if I come over here and I scroll down to Mamo, and I go to Mamo, where is Mamo sitting right now when it comes to market cap? Let's take a look at that. If it wants to pull up, come on. There we go. What's going on here? Am I still live? Type a 1 in the chat if I'm still live, because it's not showing that I switched over to coin market cap. We still live on here? All right. Sorry about that. Wasn't let's churn this up real quick. All right. So let me share my screen again. All righty. All right. So as you can see here, Memo is sitting at 3,347. That is a lot of potential for upside. It's already up 1,457%, since it launched, back here when it was just over a cent. It's up to 13 cents. It's basically 10x already. But there is still 3,347 spots potentially that it could move up. Is it going to be a top 10? I don't think so. Is it going to be a top 20? I don't think so. Could it be a top 50? Absolutely. With it being integrated into the base app, with the amount of TVL, potentially that it could, onboard. The fact that it's an AI, that you don't need to be a highly educated DeFi investor to make money with it. It's going to be a great onboarding tool for people to get into DeFi. So, do I think that there's a lot more upside to this? Again, thinking logically, than I do on, holding Bitcoin. Absolutely. That is why I'm not, where are we at here? That's why I'm not in Bitcoin yet. Would it have been smart to be all in Bitcoin with, in hindsight, with all the pumping that it did? Absolutely. But I am in alts. I want a guaranteed 10x on my portfolio. Is anything guaranteed? No. But on average, because I'm diversified, some of my projects are probably going to be duds. Some of them might do more than 10x. On average, though, I am just looking to 10x. Once I'm 10x'd, I'm out. I don't care where we're at in the cycle. I might hold on to like 10% of certain projects as moonbags. But when I reach $500,000, I am out of the market, because with $500,000, and I've said this and I'll say it again, because of discipline, because of focus, I can earn 10 to 20% easily with stables and minimal risk. And with $500,000, that's $100,000 a year. If I can average 20%, I'm making $100,000 a year. I am perfectly fine with that. With $100,000 a year plus my retirement, I have more than $10,000 a month, way more than $10,000 a month. I have no bills. So, other than like my electric and my, groceries and my gas, I can start building a whole new DeFi portfolio. As I do research on projects and I DCA on, on pullbacks, and I can build a whole, and without ever touching the principal. I can still grow that 500,000, if whatever money I don't use each month, just let it grow. Let it grow in stables, let it grow in, some of my my treasury that, Lucas over at Crypto Labs Research calls it. My treasury. That value is locked in. It's not going anywhere. I use OPM, other people's money. The yield that I earn off my treasury is what I'll do to build a new DeFi portfolio. So even if I somehow lost all my money in my DeFi portfolio, I still have my 500 grand. I'll never, ever be without that money. That is focus and discipline. That is having a plan and sticking to your plan. How it's going to play out, I don't know. Am I going to reach my target? I don't know. But because of my ladder out strategy, I might fall short. But I can almost guarantee I'm going to make at least 2, 3, 400,000, even if I don't make 500,000, because I will be laddering out. I will exit this with more than I started with because of discipline, because of focus. That is the key. The power of automated strategies, we talked about that. Knowing when to sit out. Why doing nothing can sometimes be the best strategy. Sometimes sitting on your hands when everyone else is panicking and selling, when everyone else is FOMOing in and buying green candles. You need to be the calm one in the room. Think of it like combat. Do you want to be in combat with a leader? Let me tone this down a little bit. This is the bad part of sitting by the windows. I got a nice view, but the sun coming out, always messing with my my camera. Good enough. Would you want to be in combat with a leader that was always freaking the fuck out? That was always panicking? Or would you rather be with one that's calm, cool, collected, and is like, all right, listen, this is the mission. This is what we need to do. You're doing this. You're doing this. You're doing this. Any questions? No? Move out. That is what needs to be going on in your head. And the way that you stay like that is, again, having your tracker, having your ladder out strategy, having your plan, doing your research, keeping to your schedule, staying disciplined, staying focused. That is how you're going to be successful. Building long-term crypto wealth. Why time in the market is better than timing the market. Again, entering and exiting positions all the time is you're going to end up buying high, selling low. That's just if you're an emotional trader or you're an emotional crypto investor, you're an emotional DeFi investor, that's what's going to happen. Time in your DeFi positions, having full range positions, having lending positions, having staking positions. That's why I focus so much on that as the foundation of your portfolio, because those you're always going to be earning. Time in those positions is better than a high APR that you only make for a short amount of time and that you end up with divergence loss or impermanent loss because market pullbacks and your range was too narrow. That is part of it, is ensuring that you are focused on always earning. You might earn less APR, but you're always earning. It's like the tortoise here. Slow and steady wins the race. Using core holdings, BTC ETH as anchors in a high risk portfolio. This is part of what I'm always preaching. Those of you that don't know, if you're not following me on X, veteran, the number 4 crypto, DeFi rules, believe in the assets. Do not get into liquidity pools if you do not believe in the assets, especially if you're in a full range pool. If you're in a full range pool, then, or a ranged pool, if you don't believe in the assets and that asset dumps and you go out of range to the downside, you are now hodling that asset. If you don't believe in it and it potentially rug pulls, you might lose all your liquidity. But if you're in Bitcoin, if you're in ETH, if you're in Arrow, something else that you believe in, it's a lot easier to hodl that and wait for the price to come back up and you to come back into range. So it's important that when you start doing the higher risk DeFi plays, that you only do it with good, solid assets that you believe in. Rebalancing habits and profit-taking plans. You need to figure out, so that you're, again, not being emotional. If you go out of range, are you going to wait an hour? Are you going to wait a day? Are you going to wait a week before you rebalance to see if it comes back into range so that you don't lock in losses? Because if you go out the bottom and you rebalance whatever value that you lost, you are now locking in. And so you have to look at it, you have to analyze it and say, how long if I rebalance, it will tell you, especially in VFAT, what your APR is. How long is it going to take for me to make back losses that I just locked in from rebalancing? And if that's weeks or months, you might be better off just hodling. If it's earning enough to where you're going to earn that back in a day, maybe 2, and and it's ranging again, it dipped down and it's ranging again, it might be worth rebalancing. Again, not emotional. You're using logic, reason. You're looking at the charts. You're looking at the APRs. You're making an educated choice, not an emotional one. Frameworks for rotating into high conviction altcoins and RWAs. Again, stacking your bags. Right now, I'm stacking Black and Mammo. I stacked my Arrow bags. I stacked my Plume bags. I stacked my KTA bags. I have a bunch of bags that I'm stacked in, my Casper and, all the, some Mammo. But now I'm building my Mammo and my black bags. Once I get close to those being done, I'm going to be looking for other projects or other opportunities to stack, either stuff that I currently hold or maybe new projects, as we're doing deep dives on the channel, if I run across something that looks interesting. Let's check on the questions again. Let's see. Food is life. Some price action, yes, but it will also depend on what markets will. But Mammo is very promising. Absolutely. Uh, Wispy. The post was about Venmo and PayPal now letting people pay off the national debt. What the fuck? That is silly. Oh, Marty. Yeah, sorry, brother. These solos that I do, I go live randomly. I don't go live just to go live. I go live when I feel like I have, that I have some value to put out there. Usually about this time. But I don't like going live for the sake of going live. But yeah, definitely turn on alerts. I pulled my Arrow USDC to get full Arrow exposure. I did the same thing. I closed out my positions on you can see on VFAT. I don't have my Arrow positions anymore. They're in my wallet. So I'm waiting to see what happens with altcoins here in the near future. I might dip back in, but I'm gonna wait. Just because I want to get full price appreciation. Maybe I'll open one, just to make sure I keep earning. Let's see what we got. USDC Black AMM is very good. Absolutely. You can see it right here. I'm earning 817% right now. In the past hour, I've earned about $3. Stan, rinse and repeat. Absolutely. If once you figure out your formula that works for you, lock it in and rinse and repeat. If you find something that works, you'll always be looking to improve it, but don't flip the script. Don't get off, don't get off your plan. Once you build out your plan, stick to the plan. If something happens fundamentally with a project, if a pool that you're in, if something changes, whatever it is, always reassess. Like on the battlefield, you're always reassessing the battlefield. It's always evolving. And as it evolves, then you have to, sometimes you have to make the choice to change up your plan a bit. But yeah, absolutely. Rinse and repeat. I'm sorry, I might have missed if Mammo's actually making price appreciation trades without assistance. I might have missed if Mammo's actually making price appreciation trades. I'm not sure what you mean, Stan, but Mammo is an AI. And so anything that you have deposited, it's using Moonwell and I believe Morpho and Arrow and moving your liquidity around to maximize your earning. So it does it all for you. There's not really anything that you have to do with Mammo. Huh. My little cat sitting here wanting some attention. All right, what else we got? Yeah, Mammo is a very friendly user AI. Victor, yeah, hope I hit a 5x, 10x would be awesome. Absolutely. Huh, sounds like every clueless ROTC officer. Yeah, it's unfortunately usually stoicism in the military, especially in combat and stuff like that, comes with experience. It's usually not something that people just have naturally. Follow Veteran Crypto on X. I appreciate you, Alexandria G. Always helping us spread the good word. Black Ice lurking, got a shower. Appreciate you. Um, what else we got? Plume still freeze. I'm buying more. How's your pool on Plume going? Fabio, actually, my Plume, like my one pool that of Plume that I still have is on Rooster, and it's actually doing really well. So I'm earning 203% right now on my Plume pool, which equates to about $12 a day. So I'm just leaving it there. It's earning enough, and I have a very large bag of Plume that is just sitting, in my wallet for price appreciation. So again, still earning, but I'm ready for price appreciation. But yes, Plume has been very, very stable when it comes to its price, surprisingly. So, what it's going to do this cycle, I don't know, but I really think that it's going to do well. So, just because of partnerships and fundamentally, it's doing really well. All right. I suggested a token, but comment was taken down. Well, throw it up again. We'll take a look. Impossible Cloud Network. Tell me what you guys think. Found the pool on VFAT. What's the ticker for it? Let's see. VFAT. Where are we at? All right. Are you talking about ICP? You might be talking about ICP. I am not. I'm not seeing ICP. Yeah, I'm gonna need to know the ticker. ICNT. All right. Nothing there. Let's try pools. All right, here we go. So TVL, I only see two initially that I would even consider. Due to TVL, I like to see 250K or more. The past 7-day fees on this one, it's only generated $21 in fees. So I don't care if it has 222% APR. If it's only generated $21 in fees for $338 in TVL, you might have made in the past 7 days a couple of cents. But this could be new, so that could go up. It's like, as it gets more attention, absolutely that could ramp up. As it sits, these aren't pools that I would enter personally. Just I don't see them being profitable enough to wet my beak on. I got a thirsty beak, so it has to be tasty for me to either because I want to stack that asset, or I'm just going to earn a really good amount of liquidity that I can use to swap to build a bag that I'm trying to build. Um, Terrible branding. I cunt. Um, all right, let's finish this out. So let's see what we got. Mastering your philosophy, the hidden alpha, emotional control as a competitive advantage. Again, if you are stoic and unemotional in life and in crypto and in investing, you're going to do well. You know, it is a proven fact that decisions that you make when you're in an emotional state, and there's plenty of studies, go ahead and look it up. There's plenty of studies that show this. People that are emotional are more easily manipulated. When you are emotional, you make rash decisions and often poor ones. Get in an argument with your significant other. Almost always, you're going to say something stupid that you wish you didn't say because you didn't think about what you wanted to say. You impulsively said it because you were in an emotional state. It's never good to make decisions in an emotional state. How dopamine hijacks your portfolio, the FOMO trap. Again, chasing APRs, chasing meme coins, buying green candles, all of these things are going to destroy you. Discipline during parabolic moves, how not to lose it all after a win. Locking in profits. Again, ladder out strategies. As the market's pumping and everyone else is FOMOing in, you are taking profits. You are laddering out. They are your exit liquidity. It sounds bad, but that is how investing works. If, they need to learn discipline. They shouldn't be investing if they haven't mastered discipline and focus. You put in the time, you put in the education. It's time for you to profit. Make sure you're taking profit. Identity-based investing, acting like the investor you want to become. Find mentors. I'm not saying that should be me. I have a lot to learn. I have flaws, but find somebody, and I've done this throughout my life. I find somebody that has what I'm trying to achieve. Because what better person to model yourself after than someone that's achieved what you're trying to achieve? So if you want to invest in, be a successful real estate investor, find a successful real estate investor and work for them for free, just so that so you can learn from them and be mentored by them, and get to know their network of people. The title companies that they use and the real estate agents that they use. Things like that. With crypto, find a good community to be a part of that isn't an echo chamber. Stay away from projects that are all hype. Be in a community where people are going to call you out on bullshit. If you come in with a project and they're going to look at it with and be objective and say, okay, I like this, this, and this about it, but I don't like this, this, and this. I personally stay away from any group or Discord that is solely focused on one project. I like to get into investing groups, in DeFi groups, trading groups, overall crypto groups, and channels that don't have a single focus. If you get into any, like even the projects I'm bullish on, like if I go over here to Discord and I show you my Discord, yeah, I have Aerodrome, Plume, Morpho, Moonwell, Kita. I'll tell you right now, the Kita Discord is fucking ridiculous. I love Kita as a project. I went in there when I started doing deep dives on it, and I was, asking them, is there anything that you want me to focus on when I'm doing the deep dive, when I go live, talking about your project? And I'll be honest, I got a bunch of freaking dill holes that were more, they wanted to know my channel. And so I told them the channel, and they were more focused on the fact that I'm bald than the fact that I had a YouTube channel where I wanted to highlight their project. It's like, do not get sucked into these Discord freaking, single focus projects. Stay, keep a wider bandwidth when it comes to, the groups that you're in. It's like, yeah, I don't give a shit. I'm bald. The only reason I wear a hat is so I don't blind you, because the light reflecting off my freaking head, when it comes in the window. But yeah, it's like I'm here to make money, and I'm here to put out good information. So, all right, let's see. Real world applications and tools, tracking your portfolio performance with dashboards and KPIs. KPIs is key performance indicators. So, again, having a spreadsheet, knowing where your assets are at, knowing how much you initially invested, knowing how much it's worth now, knowing how much what APR that you're earning, how much you are you making a day, a month, a year, your overall, what is your daily income that you're making, across all your positions? What is your monthly income? What is your yearly income? What is your goal? What's your yearly income goal? What is the current value of your DeFi portfolio? What is your monthly APR goal? All of these things. Actually, I need to update that. I need my monthly APR goal is 20%. So, these are all things that are going to keep you honest and make sure that you're looking at your portfolio with analytical eyes and not emotional eyes. Community accountability, masterminds, mentors, and private groups. Again, join our Discord. You know, we are going to be honest. We are not paid by anybody to shill anything or to push any project. We are going to be honest about a project. If it looks good, we're going to tell you it looks good. If we're investing in a pool, we're going to put it out there, and you can do your own research, but we're going to post, hey, we're investing in this pool. This project is doing X, Y, and Z. It's making this APR. It's been doing it for this long, just like I did my test, just like I'm doing these tests on these pools that I'm in. I posted these in the Discord. I'm like, I put $200 in this pool. This is what I'm earning. I'll update you on what, how it performs. And that's what I do. And that's what a lot of people in the Discord do. So, you can see if it's working out for people. And if it, you can get in that pool. If it doesn't, they shared it. It didn't work out. They took the bullet for you, and you didn't have to. It's a community where we're helping prop each other up. Even if we fail, maybe we helped the rest of the community not lose money on a pool. And that person that maybe lost a little bit of money, maybe because they're in the community, one of you out there will try a pool and you'll be, successful in that. And they'll get in on that one. So they'll make up for that loss because you're part of a community. It's important. Find a mentor, get in mastermind groups, get into these, discords to where you're with a good group of people that aren't just shilling, a one specific project. Tools like DeFi Llama, Token Terminal, DBank, RWA.xyz, things that give you data and analytics charts. That's how you want to invest. Optionality mindset, how to position for asymmetric upside while managing risk. I won't pretend like I know what all that is, but managing risk is very, very important. Mitigating risk. And that's why episode 8 in the DeFi Academy is so important. Building your portfolio is building out with staking, lending, and full range pools. You are mitigating risk. You're ensuring that you're always earning. And, and then with that, you can lever up your risk. With the yield that you earn off that, you can lever up your risk. But you have taken the risk or the majority of the risk out of your DeFi investing because you built that foundation. All right. So here's the takeaway. Final thoughts. You don't need to be the first, the smartest, or the fastest. You just need to be focused. You need to be disciplined. One habit to start this week to level up your investing game. What are you going to do? What is it, if you feel like that you aren't focused and disciplined, create a roadmap of, again, plan what you are trying to accomplish. What is your financial goal with your DeFi investing? Are you trying to 10x your portfolio? Do you want to get to where you're making $50 a day, $100 a day? What is your goal? Without a goal, you're just wandering. You need to find out what your financial goal is. After you know what your goal is, then you can set milestones between where you're at and where you're trying to get. And with each milestone, so, like say you're trying to get to $100 a day. Maybe you're only making $10 a day right now. Your next milestone might be to make $30 a day. So you constantly work on dialing things in, staying focused, staying disciplined, and soon you're making $30 a day. So maybe the next milestone is $50 a day. And then maybe it's 60, 80, 100. And then you can readjust. But you need to have milestones so you can get that little endorphin rush that we all need to see that we're making progress, small steps towards an overall goal. And that's how you're going to be successful, is having a plan, having goals, having the discipline to stick to it. All right. So this is my challenge to all of you. Cut one distraction and commit to a weekly review habit. So what I want each of you to do out there, and if you want help with this, let me know in the Discord. But what I want you to do is I want you to start building out these things that we've talked about. First and foremost, I want you to figure out what is your financial goal. What is your objective with crypto, investing, DeFi, whatever it is? What is your overall goal? And I want you to build out those milestones. What is small steps that lead up to your overall goal? That is your homework. And if you've done that, I want you to go in the Discord and I want you to share it. Actually, you know what? I want all of you to go in the Discord and share it. What is your overall goal for DeFi, crypto, or investing? What is it that you're trying to accomplish? And what are your milestones that you've set to get from where you're at now to that goal? Let's see. Yeah. Thank you, Black Ice. Yes, the DCA Discord is 100% free. I cannot stress this enough. We do not charge for anything. The live calls that we do in there, the channel here, I don't want you to give me super chats. I don't want you to buy a membership. We don't take money from any of these projects that we do deep dives on. We don't accept, crypto or tokens from them. We don't accept money. Everything we do here, this actually costs me and Jeff money to do because of, the different streaming services and things like that we use. So please, all we ask is to share the stream to your socials, like us on YouTube and follow us so that we can get the word out, so that other people can find this channel, because there is very, very few channels out there that have integrity. There's very few channels that aren't shilling tokens. I mean, and I'm gonna keep saying it. I'm not fudding XRP. There is no shortage. And actually, let's show it real quick. So look, I just went to TikTok and typed in crypto. And let's refresh this real quick. And let's see what comes up. I appreciate you, Black Guys, for dropping the link to the Discord. All right. So let's see what comes up. I just put in crypto. Why is crypto crashing? Altcoin market update. Buy targets for ETH, XRP, and SOL. What do we got here? There's Josh. Stop buying Bitcoin. XRP crash. I sold my XRP. What else we got? This guy's notorious. Zach Rector. He is just all about XRP. they're always talking about Trump has already posted XRP being a strategic reserve. XRP update. You know, XRP is price right now has no one started talking about it yet. And, talking about a pullback, now's the time to buy. This guy, and Coach JV, I watched him all through the bear market when I had my 40,000 XRP. Payments are coming in on August 1st. This guy is always talking about the switch is about to get flipped. That XRP is going to $100. The XRP is going to $10,000. It's going to be the new US dollar. It, their whole community is based around XRP. It is all hype. Everything they put out. And I'm not talking bad about them personally. They're very positive people, and people that were buying in the bear market XRP, they're up quite a bit. Please take profits. If you're one of those people, please take profits and diversify. I can go on and on about XRP. I know everything about XRP. I studied it for 3-4 years. And you are, if you're buying right now, you're the exit liquidity for the people who bought earlier. Reason being, it is number 3 by market cap. The fundamentals of XRP has changed. I sold my 40,000 XRP because they came out with RLUSD and USDC. There is no need for a high value XRP anymore. The reason that they are stuck on this is because their whole following is based off of XRP. If they stop hyping XRP, they potentially lose all of their following. And that is how they make a bunch of money, is off their following. Good Morning Crypto is their channel. And everything they put all of their eggs in one basket. I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm not saying they are, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of these influencers are getting paid by XRP to continually hype it. Monthly, Ripple has an unlock of XRP. Most of the time they relock it, but they sell portions of it to fund, their company, Ripple. One of the founders just sold a shit ton of XRP. Chris Larson, sold a bunch of XRP in the past couple of days, like hundreds of millions of dollars worth. They want the price to stay up. So I wouldn't be surprised if they are paying people to hype XRP to get new liquidity injected so that they can sell. But yeah, right here, Jake Cleaver, XRP to $1,000. Not going to happen. This guy is another one that's always talking about XRP. XRP holders might be about time to get paid big time. You're just, again, I just put in crypto. I didn't even put in XRP. This is how much XRP gets shilled. This is how much XRP gets hyped. XRP. And a lot of these people, they will talk about XRP right now because it's popular. It's going to get clicks. I refuse. I don't care how many followers we have. I would rather have 50,000, followers that know that we're putting out good info than 50,000 than pander to people's emotions. Again, emotions. Can I put clickbait up and talk about XRPs going to $1,000 to get people to watch the stream? Absolutely. Does that impact my integrity? Absolutely. I would rather have my integrity and not be trying to manipulate people's emotions to get views and just put out good content. Again, I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this because I believe in DeFi, I believe in crypto, and I believe it can change people's lives. And I want to make sure that I'm putting out good content that is going to make you all successful, not what's going to get you to click. So, your homework, to summarize, go in the Discord, They dropped the link. Black Ice dropped the link. The DCA Discord. Go and join. I want you to drop in there. In the let's see. Where are we going to have you put that? Put it in the portfolio share. Put it in the portfolio share section. Where are you at now as far as your portfolio? Where are you trying to get? What is your overall goal? Dollar wise, 10x, 5x, 100x, whatever it is. Or you want to make $3,000 a month with your DeFi portfolio, whatever it is. But I want you to also break it down from where you are now to where you want to get. Break it down, put a couple of milestones in there of how you're going to measure your progress. That's it. Throw it in there. Throw it in the portfolio share. I want to see it. And I'll put mine in there as well, here later today. But with that, I appreciate you all and showing up, putting in the work. The more you educate yourself, and the more that you find good communities and good channels that give you good information, the more discipline and focus you have, and the more you stick to your plan, the more likely it is that you're going to exit this bull run in profits and not getting wrecked. With that, thank you all. Till next time, Veteran Crypto out.